Hello, friends. Chris here from Manipulate. Thank you for joining me today. Thank you so much for being here today. So today I would like to talk about anger, but more specifically, I would like to talk about suppressed, unhealthy, unprocessed anger. So I'd like to state that anger by itself is not a destructive force, but suppressed, unhealthy, unprocessed, and repressed anger is the deadliest and lethal destructive force that I know. So you see, anger, that's what we're going to talk about today. But you see, suppressed anger, right? This is the one we want to focus on today, is lethal. And then the suppressed anger then becomes a destructive force rather than a liberating force. It can be. By expressing healthy anger, we can have a liberating force. So I want you to ask yourself these questions today as we're moving forward. Is what would my reality look like without all this banked up, unprocessed, unhealthy anger? What will I do without my unprocessed, unhealthy anger? What would I look like without responding in an unhealthy, angry, manipulative, controlling, gotta get it my way, self-pity kind of way? How would I behave if I healed my suppressed, unhealthy anger? What would my reality look like if I did let my unhealthy anger go? So does your anger overwhelm you? Are you concerned that your anger will hurt others and destroy not only their lives but yours as well? Do you feel you can suppress your anger hoping you can control it? You see, anger is an actively charged emotion, and the more you try to control it, suppress it, and repress it, your anger, the more likely your anger will pop up out of nowhere and hurt the ones that you care, cherish, and love the most. To families, friends, loved ones, animals, etc., right? So you see, suppressed anger is lethal. Then it becomes a destructive force rather than a liberating force that it can be. So some, but not all, tend to look at their anger as it is to be too complicated to deal with. It's just too complicated. I don't want to look at it. I don't want to deal with it. Like shame, too complicated. I don't want to look at it. I don't want to talk about it. Or I don't have anger. Or I have control of my anger. Or I don't know where to start with my anger. It's too scary to deal with my anger. I don't know how to even deal with it or where to start, right? I just can't seem to do it or to deal with my anger. It's like just diffusing, and it's like poor me all the time, and I just can't seem to handle it. When someone, but not all, get angry, they might say, oh, silly, terrible me. Shame on me, I got angry again. I just cannot seem to express my anger in a healthy way. Then people tend to say, well, when I get my life together, when I get everything organized, then, well, I'll let love in. Or a lot of people do that, right? Or what I'll do is I'll deal with my anger. It's just too much. It's too overwhelming right now to deal with my anger. I'll deal with it later. So I'll just do my best to focus on love. That's what I'll do. I'll just do my best to focus on love. How's that going for you? Probably not so good. You see, I guarantee you suppressed, unhealthy, unprocessed, delayed anger is lethal, deadly, and your anger that you have within inside of you will not only hurt you, but everyone you care for the most. Okay? And as soon as you release your anger at someone, it is already hurting and destroying them and you. Okay? So sure, you can try to hide by being an introvert and isolating yourself from the world, but your anger is still there, bubbling and festering within. So anger is the most important area to work with, yet also the most difficult area to work with. To clear anger, one must look at the blocks around anger, such as the intensity of the emotions, not really the pain, but the intensity of the emotions and the feelings. So beyond your physical reality is the emotional reality. Okay, the one aspect that intensifies the blockage of fear is anger. Suppressed anger is deadly, and you cannot afford to wait any longer to unlock anger and release it from the Lord God, Goddess of your being. So anger could be actively destroying you right now without even being aware of it. You see, anger is not like other emotions, like shame, where it's soggy and it just sits there. Or they can lie dormant, right? And I can deal with it later. It's not like that. Anger is an active emotion. You cannot suppress it or deny anger at all. It is moving, it is active, it is firing around. Anger will destroy you, and it's very, very destructive to others. I'm sure you're well aware of this around you. Even though you may feel you're actively and effectively suppressing anger right now, or unprocessed or unhealthy expressions of anger, you are not. Okay? Your anger is working quietly, silently, and sometimes not so silently, or not so quietly in destructive ways and processes in your life. So if your anger is not expressed in a healthy way, and you keep bottling up inside and suppressing it, right? And swallowing it down, it will explode, and it'll explode when you least expect it to. When you least expect it to go off, it will go off and it will stick. So you're trying to maybe speak your voice, and then unhealthy anger comes up and you go into manipulative, controlling behavior, right? So if someone does something to you that upsets you, and you say in your mind or out loud, they did this because of this, to get even, to make me look bad. They may not even have intended this, right? They may, but maybe they did, right? But the point is, the anger that came up from what they did, what they did to you, has now triggered your anger, and guess what? Ego. Ego loves anger. The ego will say they did this because of this. Or to get even, they don't like you and they don't like this, right? Why does the ego do this? To preserve the ego power, okay? So next time someone triggers your anger, see your reaction from a different perspective. You see, the universe wanted this triggering to happen between you and the other person to bring this unprocessed anger up, right? So that we can stop blaming. And now take responsibility for our suppressed anger. Stop blaming. What? Blaming? It's blaming. First way, we don't want to deal with our emotions, so we like to blame right away. It's automatic response for a lot of people. Most, but not all. So if you have suppressed anger, it is destroying your life right now. Unprocessed, unhealthy, suppressed anger inside of you. There's healthy and unhealthy. So just think about this, okay? Just think about it. The universe mirrors every encounter with the things we need to work on inside of ourselves to get us back to the moment where we defragmented and separate ourselves. So if every encounter is designed to bring up the unprocessed anger, that sounds not too fun, does it? Right? Every person, place, or thing, or animal in your life is to bring that up so you can heal it. Now, that's not too fun. So might as well heal, and then you can be a reflection of love instead of a reflector of pain. So reasons why you may suppress your anger. Let's talk about why we may suppress our anger, right? Why do you suppress your anger? So you may say, I don't have any anger. I pretend I don't have any anger right now. Or that you don't have any anger at all right now. I'm not an angry person, Chris. I don't have any anger because you suppress it and hide in your guilt. But I wish to inform you, your anger that is unprocessed and suppressed is quietly working in the background of your life and will backfire on you if the anger you're trying to hide is not dealt with immediately, right? Pessimistic, controlling person, or the guilting, seeking approval, I didn't want to hurt them person. How does anger hurt and destroy? Well, anger is always being processed, whether you're actively aware of it, right? Of your bottled up, unprocessed anger or not. Or we choose to ignore our anger altogether and stuff it in the cracks and crevices of our soul to deal with later. I'll just deal with that anger later. A lot of times we just stuff it down our anger and say, I'll just swallow it down. Or I'll deal with it later. But most likely than not, we don't tend to deal with it later. We just keep pushing it down, doing whatever we can to ignoring it and keeping ourselves busy, pretending it's not even there, blaming others. It's your fault, I didn't do it, them, blah, 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 my anger, blah, 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 blah. Right? And those other actions are triggering it, right? This unprocessed, suppressed anger is coming up to be healed. You cannot run from it. You're maybe trying to control things to be safe, but that's not working for you anymore either, right? So some, but not all, try to cover their anger by talking about love. You see, love always focuses on love. These people are, I'm just a loving person, right? I'm sweet and loving all the time, just all the time. I'm not an angry person at all. But they hide a lot of guilt here, right? So ignoring, see, anger is moving around all the time, but we'll get into that. So ignoring your anger by covering it with extra loving only ignores the problem, right? Being all sweet and loving, pretending, I love you for what you've done. But the anger is still there underneath it, right? So anger is processed one way or the other. It's your choice. It's not about processing anger. It's about a healthy, productive way of processing anger. So if we do not process anger in a healthy way, the anger we ignored or swallowed down processes itself in a more destructive, uncomfortable, and you have two choices. It's your decisions. Okay, you can process your anger in a healthy, productive way or a destructive way by ignoring it completely. Okay? So ignoring anger does not make it unreal. The anger is very real indeed. Okay, most ignore their anger, for they are unaware of the destructive force anger is playing in their lives. And that anger is labeled bad and destructive and unhealthy. Your anger is going to be dealt with by you facing your anger, facing your unprocessed anger within you. Will silently work its process in ways you will not want to experience if you do not deal with it. It's up to you. When anger is unprocessed, or when anger is unprocessed within inside of us, anger is then processed through the body. Anger forms health, diseases, and discomfort problems. Every physical, mental, and spiritual emotional problem can stem from anger. From head to toe, all the problems you have in your body right now could be the byproduct of holding on to unprocessed, suppressed, unhealthy anger. Anger has many ways to express itself, and the universe will mirror back to us many situations as possible. So we see the patterns begin to set in motion a tradition, a sacred tradition to heal our suppressed, unprocessed, unhealthy anger we've been storing down with inside of us. You see, the unhealthy, suppressed anger you're holding on to right now, maybe you're unaware of the unhealthy anger you're holding on to, is, in fact, producing the fuel to feed your anger itself through destructiveness in your reality. How one is expressing and playing out the reality of their anger. Anger is an active emotion that can never be suppressed, ever. No matter how much you run, move, change jobs, or geographically move, drug or drink, whatever it is you do for addictions, or unhealthy tactics that you use to suppress your unhealthy anger, it will not work. It will always need more. The hunger ghost can never be full. Anger cannot be put into a box or crack and crevice of your being or your soul. Your unhealthy anger, your suppressed anger that's inside of you, is there within you, and it's very real. And some of the ways suppressed unhealthy anger expresses itself in your reality, in life, into every encounter that you have with person, place, animal, thing will be as listed as follows. So 1, the negative ego feeds on unprocessed, unhealthy, suppressed anger. When the unhealthy expression of anger is suppressed and denied, the purification process for a healthy way of life is closed off. And then your body and mind process suppressed on unhealthy anger in its own way. So one of the ways suppressed anger is processed through the body and mind is through the mental body, aka the ego. And the mental tape loop, mental chatter, just keeps going on like a broken record. You see, the ego is a manipulative, controlling, hungry jackal, always wanting more and never want to change anything. The ego, your ego, is most likely attempting to gain power, manipulating, controlling, seeking power, seeking freedom, and avoiding pain. Throughout your reality, the ego does this by interpreting messages with the suppressed anger you have stored deep within your subconscious mind as it's made your fuel for interpretation. You see, the ego's favorite food is anger, especially unprocessed, unhealthy anger that you may not even be aware of that you have right now within inside of you. Unhealthy anger is a major secret poison that is fueling your negative ego and negative power. So you know the mental tape loop I'm talking about, the one that goes on and on in your head over and over and over again for days and days and years and hours. When you are in ego power, the ego acts as the messenger. You see, the ego carries messages of what is going on from outside the world into inside the self. Then the ego retrieves those messages from inside the self and carries them to the outside world. Your ego is a tool not to be the leader interpreting messages. Oh, we're not here to shame the ego. The ego has been a useful tool to protect the child in pain inside of you. However, if you have unprocessed anger, you're living in your ego power and not your soul power. Then the ego will also want more control, manipulating, avoidance, trying to try this again. You can't do that. It reminds me of like the circus person that keeps going on. Come on over here. It's not 2 hits. Again, $5. Again, 3 of those. Oh, come on down. One more. Keep doing it. You can do it. You can do this time. I know you can do this time. I know you can do it. Yeah. But it's always time you can keep on going. So all through unprocessed anger that you may carry with inside of yourself. So unprocessed anger creates a mental tape loop. Then an accident or pain arises, right? Let's take an example here. So let's say your parents, right? Let's say you're a parent. Let's just say that one. Let's say you're a parent and your child breaks something important to you. The thing that has broken has made a big mess and was probably expensive. A healthy response would be something broke. Is everyone okay? Make sure no one gets hurt. There's a mess to clean up. Get the towel. How can I prevent this from happening next time? And then deal with some of the emotions, thoughts in a healthy way. Now take a parent with an unhealthy, unprocessed, suppressed anger that I was raised up in. So the same situation occurs that was just listed, okay? Something important breaks. When the accident happens and the negative ego kicks in, a person with suppressed, unprocessed anger reacts, locks into control, manipulating, blame. It's your fault. Why can't you pay attention? You're always breaking things. Why are you so stupid all the time? Maybe you wanted to break that. Right? Maybe you wanted to get even with me. Maybe you're mad at me. These kinds of things, right? Maybe you're mad at me so you're broken. The kid will break everything I own now. The kid's jealous of my nice things, trying to get even with me, the kid is. Can't you do anything right, you stupid kid? Spanked to teach you a lesson for breaking my favorite thing now. Never come here again, you little good-for-nothing, can't do anything right, you stupid piece of crap. There's an example of some unhealthy, unprocessed, suppressed anger. A lot of parents use that one. They do. So you can see the ego uses anger, especially unprocessed, unhealthy anger, as its fuel to interpret those messages. The most, like when the pain happens, something happens, like intense in here. It's like, you don't know what to do. The first thing is to smack the child, to release it. And then you're passing the anger onto the child. And a lot of parents do that, or they avoid it, or blame, or roll their eyes, whatever it is they do, and they pass the anger on the child. Because they don't know how to process it. Because no one's taught us how to process it. Also, there's anger is negative and evil and dark and bad. Don't work on it and work on yours. Yeah, whatever. It's a healthy expression when we're taught, if we're taught properly. You can see the ego uses anger, especially unprocessed, unhealthy anger, as fuel, right? Okay, so the most mentally destructive force of anger are it pumps us up, it puffs us up. Attempt to make the ego larger, more powerful than it is. Like sometimes we hold under anger because it makes us seem more powerful and strong than we really are. So I'm sure you know the ones that do this, or the ones who use over-eradicated emotions like unhealthy anger to get their point across, or to get their way, or to make you change, make you do things so you're all scared and you're all seeking approval and acceptance in that narcissistic codependent relationship. Let's talk about number two. Number two is depression, manic depression, bipolar, and shutdown behavior is suppressed, unprocessed, unhealthy anger. In this case, one may hold on to unhealthy anger that sooner than later transforms and expresses itself through such things as depression, manic depression, shutdowns, and bipolarisms in their every encounter with their life. So the Webster's Dictionary states depression is emotion, dejection, or withdrawal, sadness greater or more prolonged, a low state of vital powers of functioning activity. So if one views anger as unhealthy, completely wrong, bad, scary, not me, it hurts others. Anger is violent. Anger is mean. Well, this person will form a view by saying, I will never use anger in any way. I'm not an angry person. I'm a loving, caring, kind person with no anger inside me. I'm a good boy or girl. I want the approval of my mom and dad. In this case, one will completely shut down their self-esteem, gifts, abilities, spiritual powers, knowledge, and wisdom, integrity, being honest and trusting themselves down. Every drop of unhealthy, expressed, suppressed, repressed anger from ourselves or others we carry shuts us down on the spiritual, mental, physical, and emotional levels. Basically, your gifts of healing and sensing are robbed of you and then buried. Why can't I heal anyone? The suppressed, unhealthy anger you may be carrying right now buries your innate healing abilities. If you let it, okay? There is depression and shutdown isolation, and there is also manic depression and bipolar. This is for the worst case scenarios of repeated, suppressed, unhealthy, unexpressed anger and shame. For example, one may want to run but can't, will feel helpless, separate, alone, lonely, overwhelmed, impotent, never will be, never have been, jealous, envy, that they can't be helped. They're too broken. Doesn't matter. No one cares anyways about me. Leave me alone in my depression of unprocessed, suppressed anger. Emotions that are labeled as bad and wrong. So someone who suffers from depression may have severe suppressed unhealthy anger where this person witnessed or used anger in an unhealthy way, then shut down to never encounter anger ever again. This leads to depression. And then grows to one becoming paralyzed, to even shutdowns, turns to bipolar reactions or manic depression. One feels if they express anger in a way, they will be in trouble, punished, abused, denied, rejected, and abandoned throughout life, labeled as bad and a mean person. Let's take the psychiatric wards here. I've spent many times in there, which do not tolerate anger in people whatsoever, especially those who are labeled as mentally ill, and therefore one can never heal whilst one believes the false premise that it's inappropriate to express anger. I personally witnessed patients being medicated for expressing unhealthy anger around nurses and doctors. Worse still was if one refused medication, as I did, certain members of the nursing staff would deliberately try to make one react so they would have a reason to force medication on this specific person who was only reacting to deliberating taunt. manipulating, and control. I had to remain assertive but not react, and it was a huge eye-opener as to what can take place in the psychiatric wards. That's one of many things I will discuss as I go forward. No drugs will heal these suppressed emotions. Not one drug will heal these suppressed, unprocessed emotions. Not one. Not even if they're on 20 of them. Therefore, this person will avoid confrontation, rejection, humiliation, to be wrong, to make others angry, to express anger by sinking and shutting down depression mode. 3. Unhealthy suppressed anger shows up in our relationships. So if you're noticing your friends, lover, spouse, significant other, or other people you interact with always angry, trying to make you angry, expressing anger in an unhealthy way, or you just notice a lot of angry people around you, or maybe you have angry encounters with every person you meet, place, or animal, or thing you come in contact with, or everything around you triggers your anger. This is a direct reflection of your unprocessed, suppressed, unhealthy anger within inside of you. You see, the destructiveness that occurs in relationships, lovers, spouses, such as intimate relationships, are indeed a direct byproduct of the unexpressed, suppressed, unhealthy anger that we are carrying or others are carrying within them. Now, if you have unhealthy, suppressed anger in your spouse or significant other or friend, or whoever it is that's in your life, experiences your suppressed, unhealthy anger in your reality, they will now mirror back to you your dark, unhealthy expression side of your unprocessed anger that you just experienced, okay? Mirroring, reflecting. So you could say like a reflection of your suppressed, unprocessed, unhealthy anger. How is that going for you? Probably not so good. Not so good. Trying to control everything and hiding out, not so good either. You're trying to battle life, not so good. The key is to stop avoiding, manipulating, controlling, blaming, and running when others make you or bring up your unprocessed, unhealthy anger. This anger is a direct reflection within you, and you can never switch jobs, geographically move, or change relationships to avoid this anger. You must face it and process your anger. 4. Our unprocessed, unhealthy, suppressed anger is secretly playing itself out and expressing itself in our lives in such things as our job, our employment, our career. So while we are working at our job and our career, our internal, suppressed, unprocessed, unhealthy anger is playing itself out in our reality, secretly working in the background of our life in destructive ways. Say you're a great employee and you work hard, but as you go forward, that promotion or that raise you were hoping for falls through and never shows up. What about the people you work with and can never seem to get along with or away from? You just keep having fights such as discrepancies and disagreements with people around you, or you're completely bored with your job. Or maybe you're always late for work, always frustrated at work, annoyed things never go your way, or you're easily always upset, triggered. You just can't be there anymore. Or maybe you want to run your own business and you have clients canceling or clients who want to start disagreements, arguments with you or give you resistance instead of healing. Or the bills that never seem to get paid. Just as you're getting ahead from financial bills that keep coming in to overwhelm you. 5. When we have unprocessed, unhealthy, suppressed anger, it's very difficult to love and forgive oneself or another. So unhealthy, unprocessed, suppressed anger attempts to process itself through the body, aka through lack of self-love, self-forgiveness, and a lack of love and forgiveness to others. So usually if we are angry, we get upset at ourselves or another right away. Blaming game for what has just happened. Processing steps, right? You know, the instant reflex of the blame game. Instead of taking responsibility for something that just happened, you just snap. Or all of a sudden it's someone else's fault. They are to blame. And it was them. They were in the way. They distracted me. They always bump into me. They always want me to mess up. They want me to fail in life. Or we tend to blame ourselves by pulling the guilt card on ourselves or turn the knives on ourselves. I can never do anything right. I'm always making mistakes. Why can't I do this right? Why can't I slow down? I'm too busy. I can't focus. I need more time. Everything I do goes backwards. Why can't I do this? Why bother anyways? I'm a failure to life. Or, what am I to accomplish? What if I don't know what to do? What if I fail? What if I'm making this up in my head? What if others judge me? What if I'm not good enough? What if I'm wrong? What if I cannot trust my judgment or self? What if I mess up the beginning? What if I lack in light? What if I cannot express clearly and be heard? Right? What if I'm not bright enough? What if God has picked the wrong person? What if I do all this spirituality and there's nothing there for me? What then? What am I going to do? This is just a waste of my time, and I'm not going to waste my time. Not waste my time. Sure, we can be angry, feel guilty, avoid, and blame all situations in life. How's that going for you? Not so good. All of our circumstances and all of our problems on the world around you. For example, we can say life sucks all you want. Life is too hard. Life is not on my side. Things are always going wrong for me. Things always go wrong for me. All the time. I'm a mistake. God made a mistake. And she made me, and I can't do anything right. Life is out to get me. No one wants to support me. No one really cares anymore. If we are attempting to process our unhealthy, unprocessed anger through self-love, self-acceptance, self-forgiveness, it will be very difficult to love ourselves or even to forgive ourselves. So instead, we tend to resort to blaming, which becomes natural instant reflux when one is in full, unprocessed, unhealthy, suppressed anger coming up. Or just in the chest. Oh, it's a big pain in the chest. Blame! I feel better. Only temporarily. Short salvation. So you see, the natural, spontaneous nature is to self-forgive and self-love ourselves, to see we are enough. You are enough. And grow up from the state of being in mind. But when we are full of unprocessed anger, instant reflex changes to everyone is out to get me. It's their fault. It's always their fault. This always happens to me. I can't do anything right. I'm stupid. They're stupid. Dumb. Can't do anything right. Racist remarks. Life sucks. Get me off this planet. The world's going to be destroyed anyways. Why bother? Stupid life, stupid people. Right? How many? Lots. When we blame another, we are playing the victim and martyr card. How's that going for you? Not so good. So take back your power by taking responsibility for your unprocessed, unhealthy, suppressed anger that's within you and stop blaming. It's no one else's fault, right? They are all teachers to your unprocessed, unhealthy anger, the reflection of the universe for you to heal yourself. The reflection of the universe for you to heal yourself. Okay? Reflection. We tend to rewrite self-forgiveness and forgiveness to ourselves and to another into self-blame, or we blame another. So self-forgiveness becomes self-blame, ridicule, manipulate, control, or self-punishment, self-sabotage, or self-defeat. So which are very destructive forces is to blame, to control, to manipulate, to punish ourselves or another. Let that one go. Let's let it go together. Let it go. 6. Unhealthy, unprocessed, suppressed anger can be processing itself through your body right now with such things as cancer and other health-related conditions. Every bacteria and virus loves to live off of hormones and unprocessed anger. How's that going for you? Not so good. Let's take cancer, for example. When cancer rises, this is for sure a case of deeply suppressed anger. Most likely an angry person is not even aware of this, right? So, you see, the unprocessed anger is quietly processing the best way it knows how to in your life, through your physical body. This processed anger processes itself through such things as cancer. Sure, cancer may take to 20 years to develop, but as long as there's unprocessed anger in the body, the anger will process itself through such things as cancer. So the unprocessed anger turns to cancer, then spreads, and then actively wreaks havoc on the rest of the body, right? Every physical, mental, spiritual, and emotional condition in your body can, most likely, and stem from suppressed, unprocessed, unhealthy anger. From head to toe, all the problems you have in your life right now, in your body right now, could be a direct byproduct of holding on to unprocessed, suppressed anger. 7. Suppressed, unhealthy, unprocessed anger erodes your self-esteem and your identity. So healthy anger is your self-esteem. Integrity is an instant, without effort, premeditation, a natural impulse or tendency, an unconstrained, spontaneous response, and holding on to anger blocks this spontaneous, natural flow to live in integrity. Now, why would you want to hold on to that and lose your integrity and then go to the very end and have, full of guilt and shame and feeling repressed and denied like you failed in life? So basically, live your natural highest truth and action is hindered by suppressed anger. So if you have suppressed anger, then you cannot be truly honest with yourself. If you have suppressed anger, you can hardly have integrity. If you have suppressed anger, trusting others, including your own judgment, is obscured. Also, if you have suppressed anger, taking responsibility can seem difficult and tedious. So suppressed anger puts up walls to protect us. With suppressed anger, we constantly tell ourselves and others little white lies to avoid, right? Or to cover up our own anger. Basically, you're constantly living a lie. We can even consciously convince ourselves we do not have anger, but who are we fooling? We're only fooling ourselves here. By not saying we have anger does not make it unreal. This unprocessed anger is very real indeed, and it's inside. So, self-esteem is made up of such components of integrity, honesty, responsibility, trust, love, caring, your bounty, your dignity, your empowerment, your courage, your passion, your creativity, your imagination. And if we have suppressed anger, the important parts that make up our self-esteem are eroded and eradicated. If you live life in a suppressed state, you're hardly truly living. You're not truly living life at all. You're living in a cover-up lie. The more you take responsibility for your reality, the more powerful you become, and in turn, the more self-esteem you will have. If you have suppressed anger, one does not desire the position of responsibility. One will have tendencies to deny, rationalize, avoid, rocking the boat, or taking responsibility for anything that is happening in one's reality. One will have real tendencies to rationalize or internalize responsibility for anything your anger might be doing. This will create payoffs that serve you, such as you will always avoid confrontation, fear rejection, or of fear of failure. That's a big one. Fear of failure. Heavy a lot of people these days. Anger erodes your self-trust. If you can't trust yourself and trust God, Goddess, whatever, then you're going to have this fear of failure. It's going to be pretty strong. How can you trust yourself if you cannot trust yourself with your suppressed anger? Example, I can't trust my anger, so I will bury my anger. Anger is bad. Okay. I might hurt some with my anger. I only love. You see, we have to take a dip in our subconscious mind once in a while, our subconscious body and mind every once in a while to tap into the subconscious part of us that feels, okay? We tap into the subconscious part of us to gather information which assists us in decision-making processes, and then which, if any, actions to take. If we are closed off, full of cloudy, unprocessed anger, then there is no way you can trust your decisions or actions in life. Suppressed anger blocks your self-trust, and one cannot develop self-trust if you cannot look at, heal, and process your suppressed anger. Anger can get labeled as spiteful, vindictive, even get even, punish, control, to take advantage, to hurt, and much more things, right? But you see, anger is a powerful force that makes up your self-esteem, and in turn your voice. So anger is a beautiful and powerful emotion when understood and used in a healthy way in our everyday actions and words throughout life. Yes, healthy anger is what makes up self-esteem, and healthy anger also carries the components of courage, being brave, standing up for oneself, giving voice and backbone to your highest truth, but in a healthy way, not a vindictive, better listen to me or else kind of way, anger, self-esteem kind of way, you know? If we suppress our anger and deny anger altogether, then we feel we have no other choice than to turn outwardly, to look outwardly for validation and approval. In this case, one will suppress anger, will turn to external sources such as others for validation. How many of you do that? Put up your hand. For your source of self-esteem and your identity. How many of you are doing this for your self-esteem right now? When we do this, look outside ourselves for validation, approval, acceptance, and to be needed, to be wanted, to be approved, we end up becoming highly competitive. To be needed, to be wanted, to be approved, we end up really becoming highly competitive. And we see a lot of lack in our life. We always end up needing external validations. Am I doing this right? Is this okay? Did I say that right? I hope it's okay. Please do not leave me. Please do not judge me. You start feeling powerless, and in turn the resentment, jealousy, envy, even hate, like Yoda, right? It garners a hate inside within yourself builds. Because of suppressed anger, one is unable to rely on one's own internal sources of self-esteem and then relies solely on external sources for validation, which in turn, one's own self-resentments builds. Suppressed, unprocessed, unhealthy anger within your being does not lie dormant, but is very active, eating away your self-esteem right now, your honesty, your trust, your responsibility, your integrity, your courage, your bravery, your true self and your real self, like the lion in the Wizard of Oz. Go and discover his courage within. If we have unprocessed anger, we're keeping down, we're laying that guilt. I can't do anything. I don't want to. When you choose to heal yourself, you use your self-esteem, your real anger, healthy voice. Divine ones. To allow you're pure, potent, in love with filled, spontaneous giving, honesty, integrity, responsibility, trust, dignity, bounty. To naturally rise and shine, one must allow the spontaneous components of self-esteem to naturally give birth and not be hindered and obscured by unprocessed anger. 8. Now, guilt. Unhealthy, suppressed anger processes itself through such things as feeling guilty, or to allow yourself to decide to let yourself feel guilty. Just like how we suppress and deny anger is bad, we put guilt in the same box. Guilt is bad. It's not to be expressed, or we try to do our best to ignore it or avoid feeling guilty altogether. Guilt, a feeling of responsibility for some offense or crime. Wrong. Whatever real or imagined means that you did something wrong or bad. Made a mistake, it's your fault, and have a right to hold on to this guilt anger. Guilt just on itself is a destructive force. Guilt is one of the greatest forms of anger that people use for suppression of anger. Guilt is also the most favorite way to, and the most active way within others these days to suppress their own anger inside themselves. Another example is, let's say someone you look up to contacts you, accuses you of things you may have done or not done. You get shocked, scared, heart races, the guilt and unpressed anger awaken within you, the tightness in the chest happens. You may want to avoid getting angry back at them, to escalate the tension. You have this thing, this belief program, I don't want to make other people angry, I don't want to be likable and approval. You suppress yourself, right? So you can't admit that you were wrong, kicks in, and you want to give voice, but spite of vindictive anger also boils up too. That could be another way. Maybe you then shut down, go into guilt and over-apologize yourself with grievous mistake. You say, I'm sorry 100 times over. I did something wrong, I did something bad. Then one seeks to be likable, to be approved, to be kind. Lots of them. Another example is, let's say you go to your dad to ask him why he hit you or sexually molested you. And when you're a kid, you want to talk about the abandonment, denial, anger, pain, and why he emotionally and physically hit and abused you. And he says, because you deserved it. One may not want to get angry and be spiteful and vindictive like the dad was to you when you were young. Maybe you just shut down into guilt and say, maybe I did deserve it. Why bury? I'm just going to bury my anger here. We bury our voice here. We may just go into guilt and say I deserved it. Or maybe he is right. Maybe I was too much to handle. Another end, you can go in the punisher, manipulating type too as well. So when we hold on to guilt inside ourselves, it does not go away. Even if you express remorse and say I feel guilty, but it still will not go away. We label guilt as anger, and anger is labeled bad, but most, but not all, as unhealthy and harmful. If guilt is disguised as anger, then guilt too would be labeled unhealthy, and we too would deny the full expression of our internal suppressed guilt. If we hold on to suppressed guilt long enough, the guilt transforms itself into shame and internalizes, calcifies, and hardens itself into much deeper pain. Anger is bad. I'm wrong about using anger. I'm not a good person, not an angry person. Or I'm a good person, not an angry person. Why do I feel wrong and guilty every time I feel angry? Anger is suppressed. Guilt is suppressed anger. So when you feel guilty or constantly feel guilty or shameful, you're not going to allow yourself to succeed. When you have guilt, you will not believe you are to be happy and successful. When you have guilt, you will watch your success slip through your fingers. How many of you are doing this? How's that going for you? Not so good. If you have suppressed unhealthy anger, you will not use anger in a healthy way. That means you won't use your self-esteem in a healthy way. You won't even use your voice in a quiet guilt. So you will resort to guilt, but then you don't want to allow yourself to feel guilty either. So I wish to inform you that guilt, anger is an illusion. In guilt, anger has no real solid foundation. It's like a shadow with no form. You may convince yourself and others that the righteous and guilt anger is real. And you may justify yourself to your blue man in the face. But it's only an illusion that you're holding on to. I have a right to feel guilty and mad. I did wrong. Righteousness mixed with guilt disguised as unprocessed anger. A lot of you are living like that. How's that going for you? Not so good. Right? A righteous, angry person will justify their anger such as you deserve to be beaten. You were a brat, good for nothing, and needed to be disciplined. A person holds on to righteous guilt, anger, does so, and convinces themselves in any way possible to hold on to the illusion of anger as a means of punishing themselves. A lot of people do that. How's that going for you? Not so good. A person who holds on to righteous anger does so and convinces himself and others in any way possible to hold on to the anger. A righteous angry person will say, my parents really were mean to me. They did beat me, ground me, neglect me, abandon me, hit me. They were awful parents. I'm angry at my parents for how they raised me, so I have every right to hold on to this anger. A righteous angry person will also justify their anger, such as, you deserve to be beaten. You were a brat, good for nothing, and needed discipline. Many stepdads that did that to me. The person convinces themselves that the unhealthy anger they use to discipline others is justified by the child's action. You needed to be disciplined with a belt. Yeah, I mean, aggressively passing your unprocessed anger, passing your shame that I'm a good for nothing onto me to break me. That's what they want to do, is break the soul power. Do discipline of aggressive, unhealthy anger and shame onto the children. It's passed on through generations. So a guilt-angry person will say, I really did wrong. This happened because of me. This would not have happened if I did this. I always make this happen. It's my fault. Oh, my anger. How many? How's that going for you? Not so good. An example is, I really did hit my child. I did do wrong for it, right? I did bad as a parent. I can't raise kids. I'm stupid. I can never do anything right. Why do I always hit when I'm angry? Why can't I control my anger? Hiding unhealthy, suppressed, unprocessed anger as pain, as guilt, will not truly process this type of unhealthy anger in any way whatsoever. It will only express unhealthy anger when you're trying to maybe use your voice, or you'll just completely go quiet because you can't contain it. It's an active energy and it fires and misfires when you don't want it to. So those are the ones I will discuss with you for today. So all the above is a list of things that can be a byproduct of the unhealthy, suppressed, unprocessed anger. And all the things above all seem to come out of nowhere too, and they keep coming and happening. Well, I wish to inform you that all the above list is from a byproduct of suppressed, unhealthy, unprocessed anger not being expressed and healed in a healthy way in our life. Maybe you will say, well, I do not want to do this, Chris. But because of your upbringing and forced assimilated programming, you do. Programmed sheep, we are, and most but not all are unaware of this. Ever since you were a little child, you have had it beaten, shamed, abandoned, drilled into you, deeply into you that anger is bad, wrong, and not good. Don't do it. Let us explain how anger has been denied full expression into your life and how anger is programmed, or should I say drilled into you as bad. First, from a very young age, from about 0 to 18 months, your current age, you have been taught, programmed, assimilated, indoctrinated, beaten, guilted, shamed by religions, teachers, friends, family, moms, dad, grandparents, societies, government, judicial systems, etc. very clearly, indistinctively. Do not get angry. Do not express your anger. More appropriately, as a child to an adult, you picked up suppressed anger as a tool. Monkey see, monkey do. So both Eastern and Western religious metaphysics say one must rise above their anger to be spiritual. Basically, don't be angry at all. Religion and even spirituality have measured their level of spirituality in the face of anger. So when your anger rises, when your anger approaches and you rise above it, you'll be in love, right? So let's stay in love and stay calm, collected. Don't express anger or rage at all. Be loving like the image of Christ is portrayed. Well, Christ told King Harold he is a viper and a jackal. That takes healthy anger, not suppressed anger, to portray that clear messages. Suppressed anger, too, is part of the female and female imagery and makeup. You were given very distinct messages as you grew up. You could say part of the parcel package of feminine and masculine, female and male identities. An example, if you have no right or reason to express your anger, and if you do, you will be punished, shamed, abandoned, rejected for expressing your anger. Take women, for example. They were taught from infancy to adult to be sweet, kind, polite, ladylikes, and don't do that. Not all, though, right? To never get upset and angry, hate, or rage. If they do, you're labeled not ladylike, but bitches, who are mean and terrible dominant women. Kind of like an assimilated shame controlled by the masses. So now men are taught as they grow up that men always have to be or have control. Males always are taught to be tempered, which means avoid being too sensitive. Hold on to emotions and do not express them. Hold it together, man. Don't let them see the weak side of you. Never go off the deep end with your anger. Sure, you can kick a bucket once in a while, vent your suppressed anger, but don't be caught expressing it. It is up to the male to hold it together. And what do most men, but not all, suppress their anger, right? So sure, we can be all loving, we can be all saying sweet things, share love, be love, but this will not do it. This is only sugarcoating the illusion at hand and will not take away the anger. So covering up your unprocessed anger, the anger someone gave to you, or the anger you took on to help another, or the anger that was triggered in you from another, does not go away by turning all loving and sweet-like. This creates a syrupy, tainted, angry love. Let's say someone makes you angry. You don't want to get angry, so you say, I love you. You're sweet, like sugar and everything nice. Have a nice day, you beautiful, wonderful being you. But you still hurt, and the anger is inside of you. Instead of understanding the anger, using the anger in a healthy way to suppress the anger, we then vent it later onto another or animal or some other situation, or we hide in our guilt, right? Or it shows up in our life as some other way, right, that we talked about earlier. So you see, in your aura is in your energy field, and your aura carries all our unprocessed anger. Now, if you are triggered and start being all loving as a reaction to the situation, the unprocessed anger is still in your aura. So as you speak loving things and phrases to another, the love you send out goes through your aura, tainted by the unprocessed anger in your aura. So instead of giving the one that made you angry pure unconditional love, your love is now tainted with unprocessed anger from your aura. So this type of anger is syrupy, sugar-coating, angry love. It is when love is used as a club to hurt the other, and it just will not work till you vent, cleanse, clear, and heal your unprocessed anger in your energy field. If your aura is polluted and you send anything through it, for example, love, joy, happiness, all the love and joy will be tainted, like lint on clothes, anger sticking to all your living expressions in your reality. How's that going for you? Not so good. Anger is a beautiful and powerful emotion. Anger is processed clearly and healthily, can have immediate benefits in your life by increasing your overall health and vitality. Anger is a valuable force when understood and used in a productive way. Healthy anger adds voice, courage, strength, and substance to your life. A spiritually evolved individual will handle the anger differently, clearly, and consciously, so it does not hurt or destroy another. This is called spiritual detachment. This doesn't mean you pretend the problem does not exist. Ignoring the issue does not make it unreal. The situation is very real indeed in your reality. A person who does not work on themselves may respond to anger. Anger does not bother me. I just love. What's anger? I'm the free child of love, freely giving love, no anger here. This is a prime example of a person who suppresses anger and then dumps it onto another later, or hides it in guilt. Now, a truly detached person will state, yes, I am angry. In fact, I'm quite upset at the matter at hand. I have to express this anger in a healthy way, though. But I'm not going to let you trip me up, to stoop to a lower level and return the anger back to you in a spiteful, vindictive, manipulating, controlling, and feeling sorry for myself kind of way. Self-pity. No, not at all. I'm not going to do that. A truly detached person is playing the anger where it belongs, when they are done with it, and move on. If we do understand the anger and how to release anger in a healthy way, our unprocessed anger will process itself whether we like it or not in destructive ways in our life, which I stated earlier. So sure, you do have a right to be angry. And sure, if you like, you can hold on to this anger till you die. But do you really want to live the rest of your life totally pissed at something that happened maybe even decades or even years ago? Maybe you do. Maybe this serves you. You know, by holding on to this righteous illusion anger, then no one can blame you. Sounds like a payoff to me. Would you like to release these payoffs to your unhealthy, suppressed anger? I promise you that you will not be truly happy in life. You will always never be truly successful, and your health will fade by holding on to this unhealthy, suppressed anger. You will always not be able to create the positive reality you wish to create if you hold on to suppressed, unhealthy anger. Is it really worth holding on to this suppressed, unhealthy anger? Ask yourself this. Even if you're right, is it really worth holding on to this illusion? Even if they were the most monstrous, mean parents, the meanest in the world, you are not there now. You are here. You are here. Yansa. Look at the value of holding on to your suppressed anger. It does not serve you anymore. What good is it going to come by holding on to this suppressed, unhealthy anger? It does not give you anything. Only the illusion of safety, pain, hardship, and ill health. If you would like the universe to stop giving you patterns that show you that you have suppressed anger, then face your anger face on and process your suppressed anger in a healthy ways instead of avoiding your anger, pretending it's not there, and blaming everybody in your life. I can assure you your anger will pop up and hurt others and yourself in destructive ways if you want to hold on to it. And I'm sure you can list a lot of them that happened. If you want them to stop, then heal your unprocessed anger. Then you become a reflection to love. Beautiful place to be. So if you'd like to have your suppressed, unhealthy, unprocessed anger vented and healed, I can for surely assist you with this in private healing sessions. Blessings. It is your gift to be and stand your power, Divine Ones. A healthy power, without unhealthy, suppressed, repressed, suppressed anger running your life. This is Chris Parr from Miraculite, Syrian and Lemurian love. This is the Galactic Council of Light and Love. Syrian and Lemurian love. Blessings. Love.